I sold all of my expensive fly fishing rods and exchanged them for a whole bunch of cheap fly rods. I want to talk to you about why I did that. Here we go. So I regard this next thing as a pro. You don't have to baby these fly rods. This is a cheap fly rod. I can kind of throw it in the back of the truck. I don't have to worry about it. I could do whatever I want with it. Now, you could do the same with an expensive fly rod, but why would you? You spend so much money on it. It would be kind of silly to do that. You know what's interesting about owning some of these expensive fly rods is that sometimes I think it's just all marketing BS. I've owned enough of these fly rods to know that it's you, it's the angler. Sometimes on rare occasions, there'll be times where I will say, darn it, I wish I had this fly rod because I know that I can get that extra, I don't know, 5 or 10 feet. And that could be the difference between fishing and catching and fishing and fishing. You catch my drift. You know what we're gonna do? Some quick math. I have 4 $50 rods. That's $200, okay? And I bought those from Cabela's. There's some fiberglass rods, 50 bucks each. And that's Canadian, by the way. So $50 for those, 4 of them. I have 2 of these rods. They were $125 each. There's 300. So we're at $500, okay? Just for the rods. And that gives me a whole, like, I can fish any type of fish I want with those rods. But on top of that, I also own a switch rod, an 11-foot switch rod. We're at $800. Now my Orvis Clearwater that I have, my 9-foot, I believe I paid $250 for that. So we're at $1,050. Sorry, I'm looking at some sculpins. Huh, funny. Now we're at just over $1,000. I have a whole bunch of fly rods now for $1,000, and it's still cheaper than owning some of my fly rods that I've owned from before. It's insane. It's just insane how much you get for the dollar. I still have a bunch of money left over for flies, for tying material, for tippet, for reels, fly lines. I mean, you name it, I'm good. And all that gas money too. That's fantastic. Let's just go over a few cons of owning cheap fly rods. Why not, okay? I'm talking a mean game here, but there are some cons. Sometimes you don't get like specific enough with cheaper fly rods. Yeah, I know that the market is getting better. You can get really good spey rods for like 200 bucks, 250. You can get, you know, Euro nymphing rods, all these, like you can get niche specific type of fly rods, but they come with like these nuances. Sometimes they, oh boy, I just saw a big fish, folks. I just saw a big fish and he's fighting, or not fighting, sorry, he's eating. Okay, give me a sec. I know some of you know this spot. Lost him. At the end of the day, when you're looking for a certain type of action, a little bit more feel, a little more this, a little more that, that's where you're getting the limitations of a cheaper fly rod. They're gonna come in just one kind of cookie cutter form. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But that being said, if you're willing to do the research and look at a whole bunch of like brands, if you're not brand loyal to specific, you know, manufacturer, whatever, you could find a rod that will meet your needs. But eventually, the more you progress in this sport and the more maybe you might narrow down and be like a dry fly or die kind of person, then yeah, you might be then looking at like an RL Winston or like a Scott, or, you know, I'm just naming some brands. It's not exclusive to that. I'm just kind of giving examples. But you might want to spend the money on something that's really nice and has that feel. And that's something that I want to talk to you about. When it comes to cheap fly rods, some of them lack character, for a lack of a better term. Some of them lack comfort, swing weight sometimes, if that's important to you. Sometimes it can be. I find when I am doing spey casting, Skagit, all that, sometimes I do want a fly rod to kind of just have that little less weight, a little more oomph to it. And yeah, I think about it sometimes. Now, does that warrant me spending $1,300 to $1,400? Not really, but I could see how that could be advantageous to some people. Another thing I think we should address are warranties. Cheap fly rods, there's like no warranty. This thing has a 1-year warranty, and I know Bass Pro is good for it. If I go in and something happens, they don't care. They just give me a new one. I'm out fishing. But a year and a half goes by, 2 years, you just gotta buy another one. Now, one can argue though, that you can go out and spend that money and have one replacement for an expensive rod or rod tip or whatever. And granted, yes, you can. But at the same time, I can get 2 of these things. I could get 3, 4, I don't know how many. These right here, I can get 10, at least 10, and still be cheaper than buying, like, let's say an Orvis Helios 4D, I think they're on, or 3D, what is it on? And I'm still cheaper buying 10 of these and replacing them every year or whatever. I'm just saying, no matter how much your gear costs, are you good enough to know where to place that fly? Because if you don't know where to place that fly, you ain't catching anything. And if you don't know how to cast that fly, you ain't catching anything. Spending money on maybe a casting lesson might be worth it. Much more worth it than owning a piece of gear and not knowing how to use it. And there's plenty of those people around. One of the most priceless moments that you'll ever have is spending a nice chunk of your day on the river and seeing that one fish and blowing your opportunity. That, my friends, will keep you coming back for more. That's what I like about fishing, the post game. After the day's done and I'm driving home, I'm gonna be thinking about that big brown that I just saw. And I'm gonna think to myself, what could I have done? I'm filming, could I just put the camera down, changed up flies, looked at what he's eating. He's doing more sculpins, there's sculpins in here. I could have put on a sculpin pattern. I could have went more upriver, all that kind of stuff. That's what's more fun to me than thinking about, I don't know, what Sage is coming out with now, what Orvis has, you know, going on the websites of all these manufacturers and just drooling over gear that I don't need or want. That's not gonna catch me that brown. It's gonna catch me the brown is the knowledge. Another thing that people don't talk about when it comes to cheap versus expensive fly rods, which I think is really important. We're out here to fish, and I think fishing is more important than the gear. The gear gets us here, but the fishing keeps us here. I'm Milan, this is Greenhorn Flyhorn. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'd like to hear from you guys in the comments below. Let's get the conversation going. Have a good one.